And the next level of organization is the level of the community. And in a community, you're looking at members of different populations that interact. So the different populations means different species. And there's three basic types of interactions that we'll look at. Predation. So you're talking about a predator-prey relationship. So that means one organism using another as a food source. And I do have a video clip for you to look at for that. So the first one we have here is a snake using a frog as a food source, so our predator and then our prey. This one we've seen before, the ladybug is the predator and the prey is an aphid, and then a fox and a mouse. So one population using another population as a food source. The next type of relationship is symbiosis, which are two species relationships. And these could be temporary relationships, they could be permanent relationships. There are three types. The first one is mutualistic. So a mutualistic relationship, you have both species involved in the symbiotic relationship benefiting. So some examples here would be like this bee and the flower. So the bee benefits from getting food from the flower, and then the flower benefits by being pollinated. Then you have here, here's a termite and a type of protist that lives in the intestines of the termite. So the protist has a place to live, and the termite has a way to break down food from the wood. Commensalism, one species benefits and the other is an unharmed, like this whale and the barnacle. So the whale here um, doesn't do anything for the barnacle other than just provide a ride, but that ride is pretty important to the barnacle because it's going to be able to gather food as it moves along. The whale gets nothing, so the barnacle doesn't help it. The barnacle doesn't harm the whale in any way. A couple other examples here, like a porcelain crab and sea anemone. So the sea anemone doesn't benefit, but the porcelain crab is able to consume any type of detritus that falls down into the parts of the amoeba. Then we have parasitic relationships in which one species benefits, that's the parasite, and the other species is harmed, that's the host. So we could be talking about a tick on a dog. So ticks and fleas. So if you look at that tick, it's going to bury its head inside of the dog, but then when it gets full, it might just detach and just go on. So when you're talking about parasites, you could be talking about an endoparasite and an ectoparasite. So an ecto is one that's going to leave, so kind of like a mosquito, and an endo is one that's going to stay inside, kind of like this tapeworm. The next type of community relationship is competition. So competition for what? Competition for resources. Resources are necessities of life, like food and water. And this will not be possible for you to have two organisms trying to use the same resources at the same time. So this is referred to as the competitive exclusion principle, which states that no two species can occupy the same niche, and a niche is the role that an organism plays in its environment. So no two organisms can occupy the same niche in the same habitat at the same time. And a habitat is a place where they live. So if we look at this one picture of this hyena, and there's a buzzard there, and they're both trying to scavenge upon whatever disgusting carcass looks like a zebra carcass there. Well, it's not going to be possible for them to do that. So there will be some type of encounter, and there will be a winner and there will be a loser. The winner gets to eat, and the loser will just have to go on and find some other nasty carcass to nibble on. So if we look at this picture here, and this is just a picture that I took at Murals Inlet in Myrtle Beach. So what populations are part of this community? So here we have a little community. This is just a picture that I took from the little marsh walk there at Murrells Inlet. And I can see at least three different populations. So the populations that I see a couple of populations. I see birds, see ducks, and I see marsh grass. There might be fish in the water. I definitely know that usually there's oysters in the water because the restaurants there will dump their used oyster shells into the inlet here, and they will serve as the used oyster shells will serve as a place for the new oysters to start laying down their own shells because they need a substrate to start growing upon. Now, if you look at this, it says what community interactions may be at play here. So, could there be some type of symbiosis going on here? Probably. Um, when I look at this, though, I think of maybe some type of predation situation. So, we know that there's definitely fish in here. So, I could just see this big guy here just flopping down into this water and picking him up a nice little fish to have for lunch.